Thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time. We normally do this one of two ways. If you want to, for the folks who are watching on our YouTube feed, you can get sort of a quick introductory statement. Tell them who you are, why you're running, that kind of thing. Or we can just launch straight into questions, whatever your preference is.
I'll launch straight into questions.
Very good. All right. Christine?
Well, maybe you could
rights?
just talk about some of the top issues, the three top issues that you think are facing the city right now, and any specific plans you have to tackle.
Well, one would be making sure that we're fiscally sound. And of course, we're under Act 47. And that's not a bad place to be right now because they're holding our hands, if you will, to make sure that we get back on track in terms of our finances. So one of the issues for me is I am hopeful that should I become mayor, that the coordinator would extend the Act 47 to give a new mayor the opportunity to work along with the Commonwealth and to be able to finish out the strong plan and any other additional plans that we have that would improve the finances for the city. Public safety is key, and I know that's everybody's desire to have a safe city, and we should. Community policing, I think, is one of the better ways in 21st century policing to handle the city of Harrisburg, where you really have a system of the bottom up instead of the top down, where you give your officers the opportunity to be in areas of the city, to work with that part of the community, to come up with programming and other types of interventions to reduce crime and prevent crime. It gives those officers a buy-in, and they get an opportunity to work with that community, be out with that community, sit with that community, plan with that community. I've learned a lot sitting on the police community board for Swatara Township, where Chief Umberger convened a committee about 4 years ago, and he invited me to sit on that committee, and that's where I've learned a lot about policing. He's very innovative. Matter of fact, he's being stolen by the state of Florida. And I was with him last night. We had a dinner with him last night, and we were all very, very kind of gravely upset about that because he really is a fantastic police chief, very innovative, very creative, very engaging, very multicultural in his thinking, very good at training his men and women to come up with different programs and intervention, especially with children. So we're going to miss him, but he has kind of been my guru in terms of learning more about public safety. So I will be pushing for that, working with the community in its entirety. What happens in Bellevue Park doesn't necessarily happen on North 6th Street in Harrisburg. The issues that Bellevue Park may be faced with, like for instance, I was up there on Sunday and the gentleman said he was attacked 18 times by a pit bull. Now, I don't know whether he tastes good or smells good or anything, but 18 times seems a little excessive to me. But he said, you know, that's one of the issues, dogs running wild up in Bellevue Park. Well, you may have a different type of scenario when you talk to people who live in other sections of the city of Harrisburg. They may be dealing with guns instead of dogs. So it gives our officers an opportunity to hone in specifically to the issues, the various issues facing our diverse neighborhoods. And then we have the issue of economic development. And of course, that's big on my radar because if we come out of Act 47 and we don't go home rule, we have to find a way of leveraging more tax dollars. And economic development, of course, would be key to that. Making sure that we attract businesses, both large and small, into our community, making sure that we can attract people to come in and buy homes. I'd like for people to see a lot of the homes that people call blighted. I would like for people to look at them as diamonds in the rough and be able to purchase those homes, renovate those homes, rehab them, renovate, whichever word you want to use, and live there and become part of the taxing system. And those homes don't just continue to deteriorate. And so I want a program that would accelerate the purchase of home buying by working with families or persons to give them an opportunity to buy real estate in our city. Businesses, large and small. There was a time in Harrisburg City where small businesses were interwoven throughout the community. If you wanted a good old cup of coffee, you didn't have to go but a couple blocks because there was a coffee shop there. But being able to leverage these types of business in our neighborhoods so that, not that you have separatism, but that you have enough variety throughout the city to give people an opportunity and a desire to want to visit different parts of the city and become a part of that city. My slogan is a city of unity, and a house divided cannot stand. And so we cannot, as a mayor, I cannot have a favorite neighborhood. I have to love my whole city. And I won't have a favorite neighborhood. And I love where I live. But I could live in a number of neighborhoods in the city of Harrisburg. And I think that all people should have the right to live in decent, clean, safe neighborhoods in the city of Harrisburg. And I believe it's doable.
The program you mentioned to
I'm sorry,
help-
Christine. I want to move the camera a little
Oh, okay.
closer. I apologize.
Well, I was intrigued by the, you mentioned a program to increase home ownership. Like, how would that work, or what exactly would be involved in that?
Well, you know, we have an abatement process in the city of Harrisburg. So to be able to, let's say a young couple who's renting, matter of fact, your camera person yesterday was very nice. When she came to my home, she talked about renting. And because she asked me some of these same questions, and she said, you know, oh my God, my boyfriend and I were just talking about this because the rents are so high, and you pay high rents and you have nothing at the end of the day because you're making somebody else wealthy. You're paying for their real estate. And so what I would like to be able to do is link up with the banks and credit unions, whoever would be interested in opening up the door for people to buy our diamonds in the rough and give them renovation loans, and of course, which leads to a mortgage for them. And I mean, I know that their mortgage would be probably a whole lot less than some of the rents that they pay, because the young people are paying anywhere from $700 up in terms of rental property. Some people pay that much for one bedroom when you can have a 7-room home and maybe more in the city of Harrisburg. So that's what I'm talking about. There's some banks that I've already spoken to that are excited about this, are willing to participate, where we help them with their credit. A lot of people don't buy homes in the city because of their credit, especially young people that have student loans. They may have purchased a car and then they use their credit card wildly and so forth. And so, you know, they're debt poor and they can't buy a house. So these banks would have programs where they would help them get out of debt. Then the next step would be for them to find a property and then apply for their mortgage, rehab their home, and get on the tax rolls.
Isn't there a program, is there already a housing council or a program that does help with, helping people to get their credit fixed? So how would this be, would it just be another different
This
program?
would be a little bit more comprehensive, if you will, than what we currently have now. Yeah, we have that, and Mel Johnson runs that, and I'm familiar with that. My daughter went through that program. It would be more comprehensive because after you purchase your home, you're still going to have debt that you have to worry about. So it's a continuum of services to those who purchase homes.
Would it be a city program?
It
or-
would be a city program.
On that same topic, real estate taxes have also been a dampening on people wanting to buy in the city.
That's
Can you
correct.
address that issue?
Well, you know, the more people that we get to come into the city to buy real estate or to have businesses, okay, the lower our tax base can be because we have more participating in contributing to the tax base. The taxes weren't always this high. The taxes became this high when things started going badly and people started moving out. And so you have a limited number of persons paying real estate taxes in the city.
To that point, you talk about young families coming in, trying to attract them to come in, stipulating upfront that the mayor has no control over the school system.
Right.
One of the factors in people leaving the city, I think you concede, is that they have concerns about putting their kids into the schools, and they reach a certain age, their kids get to be school aged, and out they go. To the extent that it is possible for you to do anything, to what extent can you rebuild relations with the district to try to help them along so that these young families then stay instead of decamping to Swatara Township or wherever?
That's an excellent question, and it's all true. People do move out. Now, you know, you get a 10-year tax abatement, you have to stay in your home. You know, you can't just get up and leave. So you have to be more stable than that. However, people find other ways around seeking education for their children, which does upset them because they typically have to put them in charter school or private school, and that upsets a lot of people having a school system here. I have a very good relationship with the board and with the superintendent of schools. I also have a background in education, so that helps. And I will be working very, very closely with the school system. Now, I don't want to take over the school system, and I continue to say that. And every time it looks like every time we have a candidate night, I don't know. Maybe some people have a listening problem, but they'll say, "Oh, she wants to take over the school district." I do not want to take over the school district, and I pray to God that the state never wants to do it again. I want to be able to work civilly and friendly with the school district. I'm a product of the school district. I acquired a very, very good education in the school district. I have 2 children, adult children. They both went through the Harrisburg school system along with nieces and nephews and grandchildren. So I believe in the school district. I just believe that we need to work cohesively, and we need to be careful in terms of how we're spending our money in the school district for consultants and what they really bring to the table. Can they really prove that they've improved other school districts around the country and so forth? I don't know if we've had that kind of careful review in the past, but that's something that I want to do and I will do, excuse me, with the Harrisburg School District.
I wanted to go back for a moment, if I could, to your point about public safety. Christine wrote a story maybe a couple of weeks ago. Statistically, crime is down. Yet, when you go into the neighborhoods, there is still this perception, justifiably so, among residents that they are unsafe. So, you talked a bit about building relations with the community. That's obviously a two-way street. How do you restore the community's face so they are, in fact, willing to work with your officers so they can get to that place where they do feel safe in their homes?
Well, pardon me. I think that one thing that goes on is that people are upset because they've lifted the residency requirement from our officers. And that can be debated, depends on who you're talking to. However, I have to put myself in the officer's position. if my husband, if I was an officer and my husband was concerned about my safety, I'd say we're living next door to John Doe, and John Doe has a whole bunch of bad kids. And I'm not talking about just doing mischievous things. I'm talking about doing heinous, illegal things. And I have to arrest some of John's little troublemakers. Well, I'm living next door to John, and I have children, so I would be afraid that they would retaliate against my family. I want to have the prerogative to live where I think my children and my family is going to be safe. It doesn't mean that I'm not committed to the city of Harrisburg. It means that I'm keeping my family safe at all costs. As it is, I think personally that we don't pay our officers enough. The beginning salary to me is lousy for what we expect of public safety personnel. I think the beginning salary is either $40,000 or $45,000 a year, starting salary. Now, am I going to be able to go in as mayor and do a whole lot about that? No, not unless I get the support from the Commonwealth giving us some more money, or be able to get grants from the federal government. But look at a lot of different systems to try to get money to provide better salaries. I just don't think they get enough for what they do. When an officer leaves his or her home every morning, I know that family worries, are they going to come home? And so there really is no amount of money that we can pay them that's comparable to their life and losing their life. But I think we can do better, and it's something that I will work to strive for and support. I don't care for bad policing, and so if there are issues in our community where the community feels that police officers are mistreating them and so forth, that will be dealt with. It will be dealt with. So the community needs to know these officers because they don't know them. So if Officer Green is in a certain area of the town, that's his or her area, then, and they're working with that community, they build trust. They know who Officer Green is. Now, tell me why I know this works. Because I grew up under the system. They didn't call it community policing. It was just natural back when I was growing. It was policing. And so, I knew Mr. Robbie. Mr. Robbie, by the way, was the person that established the POW program in the city of Harrisburg. Mr. Robbie, they took us skating twice a week, and then we had parents who met us at the bus stop to make sure we all got home when we left the skating rink, and they were there when we took off to go to the skating rink. So all of those activities involve parental supervision, voluntary parental supervision, because they knew our officers, they were engaged with our officers, they knew our officers cared. So, we have to get beyond. That's why it's a city of unity. We have to get beyond thinking that just because they're police officers, and sometimes they have to come down hard, that they're the enemy. That's not true. And I'm not saying we don't have a few bad folk, but every profession has a few bad folk, but it's not the whole profession. Matter of fact, I believe we have more good ones than we could ever think of bad ones. Training is key. Training is key. I grew up in a different type of environment in terms of loving and appreciating people and not looking at the pigmentation of their skin and determining that they hate me because I'm black. Not everybody has had that privilege or that benefit. So people need training. They need to understand the cultures that we live amongst. And that's going to happen. That's never going to go away again in this world. You know, the world's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we have to appreciate and engage those people that don't look like us, but it doesn't mean they don't care about us and want to care about us or want to socialize with us or be friends with us. It just means we have to stop identifying people as being bad people if they don't look like us. And that's not just with white people. That's with African American. That's with all types of people. Because of the way we grew up, when people make an assumption about who people are and they have no facts to base it on. They didn't grow up with them. They didn't engage them when they got older or anything. You know, we have to do better as a people, receiving others. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, ma'am.
One concern I've heard from some voters is that with James Ellison working on your campaign, and he had been involved in some allegations of overbilling, and I think he was fined for an ethical violation. So what would you say to assuage the voters who are concerned about this gives him a seat back at the table, or somehow they're worried about that association?
Well, let me say this. I would not have James Ellison on my campaign if I thought he was not ethical. That's the first thing. I'm very familiar about the issues in Coatesville. I was born in Coatesville. I go back to Coatesville quite frequently because I still have a lot of relatives there. As a matter of fact, I was very much aware of the things going on in Coatesville. Now, if you want to talk about racism and how things get out of order, that's a primary example of a district attorney going too far. And because James Ellison didn't listen to him, it went further than it should have gone. I don't think they haven't found him guilty of anything and so forth. And I'm going to say this because you opened up the door for me. If the voters are not interested in looking at Jenny Jenkins, who has been accused and found guilty of stealing money from a PAL program, who was fired because she used the city's credit card, to have her car fixed, repaired, then I would think that they need to open up their eyes and their ears and listen and see a little more carefully. This is a candidate that's going around the city saying she's innocent. You don't go through ARD if you're innocent. You do not. If you're innocent, you're innocent. But if you're guilty, they give you options. You know, if you don't have a long criminal record, okay? So if you steal from a non-for-profit, and I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say, well, she said she didn't really know what she was doing. Well, if you don't know what you're doing in handling a small non-for-profit budget, how are you going to handle $60 to $70 million in a municipal budget? I mean, there's something not quite right about that. Now, Sunday was the first time I have even made this an issue. And I'm doing it now because nobody is saying anything about it. Christine just asked me about a letter from, which I saw for the first time when she showed it to me, about Stephen Reed supporting me. But I don't see the media saying anything about a candidate who has been accused of theft, found guilty, paid a fine, going through ARD. What's wrong with that picture for me? And you know, when you're ethical yourself and you're honest, and that's the way you were raised and that's the way you are, I have no record. I am ethical. Nobody tells me what to do. Got a little Irish in me. Hey, nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm my own person. And yet I'm out here running a race for a city that I love. I love this city. I've been here for 60 years. Okay? And I've always worked for my city, not just in political offices, but in public service. I have a long list of public service that I've been involved in. I'm still involved with the public service arm of it. I serve on the Dixon University board, been on that board for about 9 years now, and I'm the vice president. Impact Harrisburg board, and I can go on and on, but because I love my city. I stayed here because I want to be here. I don't have to live in the city of Harrisburg. I have been blessed enough to have held good positions and been able to move where I want to move. But I love the city. There's something that just binds me here, and I think it's because of the cultures. It's beautiful. It can be beautiful again. We get people to buy these homes and fix our streets up and our neighborhoods up. It can be beautiful again. I contend that most people want to live in a decent environment. I believe that with all my heart. I would like to work with the housing authority. I don't believe in long-term public housing, and I never have. I believe that should be like transitional living. You start there because that's all that you might be able to afford to do. But I don't believe that the government should have a lifetime living arrangement with the community. I think that people should work. And I believe that when you're in public housing, they should have some type of process where people have to provide so much money a month. That money goes into an account. They should go through the same things I want to provide other people. And that is how you manage your money, how you take care of your home, all of those things. And then they should slowly move out of public housing and be the people that would buy some of these homes that we want to put on the tax roll. Let them pay taxes. They don't all want to live in public housing. That's a facade.
And before we get too far away from the James Ellison question, and I don't want you to think we're picking on you because we're going to ask every
I don't think
candidate-
we are. I think you are. But go ahead.
We're going to ask every candidate really tough questions that we think are on voters' minds. And I think people from Harrisburg do think of some of the prior political machines that ran and got the city into some of the trouble it's in. So are you saying that the issues with James Ellison were trumped up, or because they did settle 7 months ago his former law firm.
His law firm.
Right, for $420,000. So it seemed to imply that there at least was some misunderstanding. So I just want to make sure that we understand, are you saying you think that he didn't make any mistakes on the Harrisburg Authority? Or?
Do you realize when you work for a law firm that you don't set your own billing? You don't set your own billing. You have a part of that company, a part of that law firm that tells you how to bill out. Okay?
I mean, as far as hourly rate or?
The hourly rate, everything. He doesn't make that decision. No attorney does when they're in a law firm like that. Okay, so that's why the law firm paid out and James Ellison didn't pay out. Also, I want to tell you this because I've been in these systems. I can probably give you a whole list of law firms in the city of Harrisburg that their billing to the school district, especially the school district, has been off the charts. And nobody says anything about it. Off the charts. Okay? And for a long time, they were off the chart. So it's not just a James Ellison who is a partner in the firm, but does not dictate what he bills. Now, you do that in your private firm, you can do that, but you can't do it in a firm that he was in.
So I take that to mean you don't really fault him personally for some of the things that he's been ensnared with.
I don't.
And voters shouldn't be concerned about him and your connection and his.
Well, first of all, he's my treasurer. I'm running for mayor. He's not running for mayor. I'm running for mayor.
Hey, I wanted to also ask you about the grand jury report that came out, your thoughts on the findings and.
Didn't read it.
The recommendation.
Didn't read it, Christine.
Okay, why not?
I'm running the campaign. I'm barely home.
How about more globally then? Was the decision not to prefer charges against the people who were involved in the incident? Do you think that was the correct one by the grand jury?
I don't know because I didn't read it, so I'm not sure what findings they had that made them determine that there shouldn't be any criminal charges. I don't know. I have to read it first before I speak on it.
Do you feel like the city is over what?
May I say this? I will say this, that certainly when I was on council, I felt very strongly that there should be criminal charges. So from then to now, I'm not sure what they found in their findings because I didn't read it, but it would be interesting to read why. I mean, you have a entity that didn't pay their bill to us, just walked out and so forth, filed bankruptcy, and they're not culpable. That's hard for me to believe. But again, I haven't read it, so I don't know.
I was just going to follow up with kind of the mood of the community as far as the incinerator, and if you feel like people have kind of moved beyond it, like the lack of trust and the different bad things that came out of it.
Well, the city is not in charge of the incinerator anymore. So I think that most people want to get by and over it and move on and begin to look at positive things that can and will happen in the city. I don't think that they are at all bogged down with the incinerator, and especially since there had been a settlement where the city was able to walk away with some money to help the city. That money came to Impact Harrisburg, and so I think people are over. I think people want to move on. I really think the people of the city of Harrisburg want a positive environment. They want to get over it.
And you mentioned economic development earlier. What do you think you could do in your administration that's not being done now, or what approach would you take to really get things going?
Well, one thing would be to look at other neighborhoods other than the ones where I have my investments.
Do you think, like the Mulder Square project in South Allison Hill is, with the state?
Well,
money that-
Impact Harrisburg contributed money to the Mulder Square project, and we think it's a good project. Yeah,
Right, so there is
we
some
think.
development going on there, but you're saying like the bulk of the development has been going on in Midtown?
There's been a lot of development in Midtown. Just recently, $8 million funneled into Midtown. And here's my issue. I don't think any sitting mayor should be able to purchase investment properties while he or she is in office.
Right, and I've looked online and I haven't seen any record of that. What properties exactly are those?
Well,
They're not listed
ask
online.
Eric.
No, I did, and he said that he didn't.
Eric owns about 8 properties
Right,
in Midtown.
right, and those were.
And he
purchased-
says he doesn't own any?
No, he said they were purchased before he became mayor.
That's not true.
Well, the online records show that they were purchased before.
That's not true.
Can you provide the specific addresses? Or
No,
dates?
make him provide it.
Well, he says he denies it. He said that's a lie. That's being.
He has
perpetuated.
properties on 3rd Street, going north on 3rd Street. There's a bar on the corner. You know, Eric did take that owner to court and said that it was a nuisance bar. The judge found no credibility related to that and dismissed it. And Eric wanted to appeal it, but the president of the city council said, you're not spending any more tax dollars on fighting this. Okay, so he owns most of those properties north of that bar.
Right, and we wrote a story that documented all of those, but I'm just saying when we looked them up, they were all predated his administration.
Well, you know, Eric has a wife.
Well, we looked her up too.
Okay.
So if you have a specific parcel that you know was purchased afterward, please provide it, because he's denying it and I can't find anything on the Dauphin County.
I'm not doing FBI work for Eric.
No, I know, but if you're gonna say that he purchased it during his administration, we would need. the
I'm
bill.
saying that a mayor shouldn't be able to purchase investment properties while he or she sits in that seat. And I'm going to tell you why. Because then you start going around talk to a gentleman that owns an Army and Navy store. Ask him how he's treated. Because then the mayor goes around threatening people that if they don't sell their property, that they're going to get their property one way or the other. Yeah, I don't think that's what a mayor should be doing.
Are you accusing the mayor of threatening this specific property owner to sell?
I'm saying that this property owner will talk with you probably.
But as far as, that's something we can follow up on, but as far as him
Mhm.
purchasing properties while in office, if you don't have any evidence of it, what are we supposed to make of it when we've looked into it and
I'm
can't
the
find
first
it?
thing I would do. I'm going to send down legislation to City Council prohibiting a sitting mayor from purchasing investment property. Now, if he wants to buy or she wants to buy, residential property that they're going to live in, that's fine. I'm talking about investment properties for as long as they sit in that office, because they have the first-hand information on the best properties, how to get them cheaply, and so forth. Well, you should all have the same right.
What about other city employees? Would that apply to, because people in other departments would maybe have similar insight?
I haven't thought of that. I'm just thinking of the person at the top.
Right, but what is that based on? If the current mayor didn't buy any property while he was in office, because we don't have any evidence that shows that he did, what would this be?
It
to
is
address?
an ethical issue for me that I think is ethical.
To just
It is an
set standards and
issue
make sure-
that if I own this shop here and I want this shop here, but somebody's in it, do I have then the pressure to put on? I can send codes in and tell them, code them up. Okay, I can do all kinds of things to make that owner miserable, to want to get them out of there. I don't think anybody with that kind of power should be able to dictate that.
And, just to circle back with economic development, that's how we got started. What would be your plans for outside? You mentioned not just focusing in Midtown, but what would be your plans then for other parts of the city that could spur economic development?
Small and large businesses. Now, we're kind of landlocked, so in the city of Harrisburg. So, there's only so much large, huge economic development that we can implement, except if there are buildings large enough, and we do have some buildings that are large enough where we can have large entities come in. But to be able to have medium-sized and small businesses interwoven throughout the city. It could be restaurants, it could be clothing stores, it could be a lot of different things. It could be a little bicycle shop. But making sure that we don't have all these empty buildings, or that we have to go outside the city all the time to enjoy the pleasures of life, even if it's restaurants, a coffee shop, just a little jewelry store, those types of things.
Would you have someone in your administration designed to target entrepreneurs to bring them into the city, or how would it work?
Yeah, it would be absolutely necessary to have a core staff to focus on that have the experience and the background to do that, to know how to apply for grants, how to go after money, what departments are giving out that kind of money, and so forth. Yeah, that would be absolutely key.
I was curious about that. I mean, apart from, say, grants, what sort of legislative pushes you saw in terms of abatements or incentives to bring those businesses in to start
Well, we
working?
already have an abatement system, so
Is that working well in your jurisdiction?
I don't know how it's working right now. I don't know. We have LERTAs that people can apply for. The LERTA process is probably the most obscure process, because not everybody knows what the LERTA does, how you apply for the LERTA. And developers in the city, current developers in the city, they know about the LERTA because they go after the LERTA. But if you buy a house in the city of Harrisburg and you want to renovate it, you can apply for a LERTA. But a lot of homeowners don't know that. They think a LERTA is just for the bare development companies and things like that. So part of getting people invested invested. And I'm not just talking about people living in Harrisburg. I want to see people from the outside come in too. That's key. You can't just be singing the song to our own community. We have to go outside and bring in people. And so educating, though, people on LERTAs and things like that is so very, very key because they just don't know. They don't understand it and so forth. So education in my administration is going to be key. I think we can use Channel 20 a whole lot better in educating people. I think part of being a mayor is being visible in your community and invested in your community and letting people know you still care about them. You're in office and you won't wait until year 3 to all of a sudden show up, but that you're there all the time bringing them information. That is key. I have a very, very good relationship with many of the stakeholders in Harrisburg that we have to work with, and I'm proud of that. And those relationships were developed during my term on the elected school board, board of control, and city council.
I mean, to that point, I mean, you are correct that being a mayor is probably a 60-40 policy to being just a straight up cheerleader. You think of the example that Rendell set in Philadelphia, for instance. I mean, how do you see yourself embracing that role, acting as kind of an ambassador or cheerleader for the city?
Well, you know, I'm not an island, so I can't do this alone. And if I've said anything today that makes you believe I'm saying that, I'm not. I am, it's going to require help from the stakeholders in the city, the county commissioners, you know, the chambers, all of the chambers, the Latino chamber, the African American chamber, you know, Dave Black and his crew. It's going to require that we bring to the table all of these entities to work with me. Listen, one of the things that I haven't heard for many, many years is to focus on the fact that we are the capital city of Pennsylvania. Now, you know, we're deemed a third-class city only by population. That's why we have that designation. Because we have that designation doesn't mean we have to behave like a third-class city. We're a first-class city. But who's going to believe us if we don't believe it? If we don't demonstrate that? We're right here in the Capitol. How many times has Eric been on Capitol Hill? Not just to see Patty Kim, you know, or our representatives, but I believe that every legislator on that hill should be committed to helping this city because it's the capital. And if your capital fails, your capital doesn't do well, your state is not going to do well. But you have to have the chutzpah to go up there and take your champions with you, because they champion the capital city as well as the county of Dauphin. So you have to have your friends go with you, your stakeholders. And in order to make friends in these various positions, you have to be civil. Yeah, you do. You have to be civil. Yeah, you have to understand that not everybody's going to agree with you all of the time, that you're not right all of the time. And you know, sometimes it just takes a little bending a lot of times. You know, I tell people, you know, I love my husband dearly, but we don't agree all the time. But we don't fist fight either. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But you have to understand that people have different opinions. So listen to them. Maybe this time I win. Maybe the next time you win. But it should be all about the people we serve. That's the key word, serve. It shouldn't be about your own ego. It should be serving the people in the city of Harrisburg. Always. And if you lose sight of your service, then you should bow out and find something else to do.
Where would you like to see Harrisburg in 5 years?
In 5 years, I would like to see Harrisburg at least have 30 to 40% of their neighborhoods healthy again. I would like to see jobs come to Harrisburg. There's going to be a press conference tomorrow. I'll tell you all early. She loves this stuff. At 10:30 in front of City Government Center, we're going to be talking about CAT. And I don't know if you know this, but they want to move the management of CAT to York, which could have a negative potential on 100 jobs in the city of Harrisburg. I don't favor sending 100 jobs away from the city of Harrisburg. So what I would also like to see is us continue to build up the employment. I want us to keep our businesses here, especially downtown. And the business people are feeling very frustrated right now. Now, some of that has to do with parking, and we know that. A lot of it probably has to do with parking. But I don't want the city of Harrisburg to look like it looked about 20 years ago, which was like Beirut, like somebody bombed it, okay? And so that's what I want to see. I want to see a healthy Harrisburg. I want to see a better school system in 5 years. A better school system.
Can you talk about something you mentioned though, the parking, which is, I have to admit is the hot button issue we always hear. And certainly for people that go downtown to patronize Restaurant Row, etc. Do you see, whether it's perceived or real, do you see an issue with parking being maybe enforcement too stringent, the fines are too high? That's the kind of thing we're hearing. What's your view on this, and is there anything that the city can do at this point?
Well, the parking agreement is not so rigid that you cannot negotiate some things. Now, I know that, but I have to wait to get in office to see how fluid that is, because I don't know that. But you're correct. People are complaining about, you know, the enforcement being too stringent and the amount that they pay being too stringent. Some people are telling me that they pay more for parking than they do their meal when they go downtown. Now, I don't know that. That's what they're saying to me, that you're there for a couple hours eating, you know, you pay more for your parking than you do your meal. That's not attractive to people. I don't care how much money you have. It's just not attractive to people. So that's something that we have to work on. And the way we do that is, you know, we have to work with the parking authority, but we also have to engage the business owners downtown, because they feel like they don't have a voice. And so we have to do that. Now, what the outcome of that's going to be, stay tuned with me.
I did want to ask you about CAT. I mean, you brought up CAT. You talk about trying to connect residents with jobs. And certainly there's some number of people who live in the city who don't have easy access to a car or don't have a car at all and depend on the CAT system to get to and from their place of employment.
Right.
And I mean, we have found that it's incredibly difficult sometimes on CAT to get from point A to point B, and it could take an hour or more just to get, you know, 5 or 10 blocks.
Right.
You know, are you aware of that, one? And two, what extent do you think you can work with CAT to maybe expand routes or to streamline services so that people are more easily connected to the jobs, thus keeping them in town, thus building the tax base?
Well, actually, I went down and visited CAT about 3 weeks ago, and I met the acting executive director that they brought in to kind of clean stuff up. And I believe CAT understands that they have to make some improvements, especially for service provision. And you're absolutely right. People get very frustrated because they can't get to work on time, or the routes are not designed where people can get employment. So they do have some things that they have to clean up. So I know that. I still don't believe that they need to take 100 jobs out of the city of Harrisburg. I think they need to just do a better job at cleaning up the routes and the efficiency and so forth. But stay tuned, because this is something that's evolving, and I understand that June, I think it's June, their board will make a decision. I just would not want to see 100 jobs lost in the city of Harrisburg.
Isn't there something going on with far as which county, I thought there was some agreement, like someone came before council to say, Cumberland County, do you want to be on our side? Or there seemed like there was some split in
Yeah,
allegiance or something
there's
going on.
some type of negotiation going on in terms of whether, I guess it's the Red Rabbit, some color rabbit, that's involved with this, and whether Cumberland County should be regionalized to be with us and so forth. So yeah, all of that's
And
going on.
Harrisburg, yeah, being the piece that where will Harrisburg end up? And I
Correct.
didn't know if that fit into what you were talking about, the jobs moving. Maybe that's something completely separate.
Well, you know, that may be the impetus for some of this starting to happen, but I'm going to go back again to another reason I think that CAT needs to stay in the city of Harrisburg, because we are the capital. We have to start building our city as a capital. We can't keep giving stuff away, because that whole attitude of being third class just permeates when you take things and give them away, or you don't have anything in your capital city that really depicts a capital city like we know some other capital cities look like. So I really believe they should stay here, especially since I found out that the office in York is very small, and they really don't have the expertise, if you will, to run the CAT system the way that it needs to be run.
Beside the jobs, it seems like just losing that presence here would be further detrimental and a disconnect with what the residents need.
I agree. And especially given the fact that the state has just given money to several counties to build up their transportation systems. And certainly that's what Harrisburg should be doing. We should be the hub here because we're the capital.
Would a more broadly regionalized transit authority make sense? Say one that involves Harrisburg and Cumberland and say York and Lebanon, that way, just getting greater economies of scale and more efficiency?
I'm not opposed to regionalization, but it depends on what it looks like. What I'm opposed to is taking the focus away from the city of Harrisburg in terms of being the hub. But I'm not, I really don't have any real serious problem with regionalization. I think that looking at a whole lot of services, government and otherwise, at some point we're going to have to consider regionalization. Now, I don't agree with regionalizing our police force, because we have work to do here first to make things healthy.
The city's had to spend so much emotional and intellectual equity on the problems with revenue and financing. And I'd like to say, get that off the board, and I'd like to hear what your wish list would be for those kind of pie-in-the-sky ideas. What would you like to see come to Harrisburg? We've heard ideas about aquariums and other things in the past. I'd really love to hear from every candidate. If you could, what would you love to see come in?
I want an aquarium right in the middle of 2nd Street. No, I'm just kidding. But I want to see good housing, good, strong neighborhoods. I really, really mean that. I miss that. I want to see social activities that mirror larger cities, like, plays. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to New York. It's fine. I'm one person that can go to New York. I can stay a day. I need to come home. It's too much stimulation for me. But I want to see those types of things, where I want to see eateries that don't just look like the same old stuff, Can somebody tell me where to get a good pastrami sandwich? That's all I want. I don't want to have to go to Philly or New York to get one. But I want to see that type of cultural diversity in this city. I want to see the fronts of people's homes swept and clean with flowers when it's season. I mean, to me, that's my pie in the sky. I want to see that people are safe, and that they'll come from across the river and park their car and walk the streets because they feel safe. who knows? While they're walking, they may see a house and go, oop, like that diamond. Who knows? But we have to prepare it so that people are receptive to it.
Which should also show on the account level when it's right. Right.
She have a question for me. She's looking at me like, you're so quiet. That's my pie in the sky. I want to see that. I want to see good schools. You know? Kids playing again. Yeah, I miss that. I see kids because the library's across the street from my home. So I see them, you know. Because those little buggers like to pull up your flowers. But they're kids. I want to see kids playing. I want to see families up at Reservoir Park, on the riverfront, you know, out Italian Lake, because these are all the places we played. We had family reunions in Reservoir Park, picnics in the summer, heard music. I mean, to me, that is what we need to have. And if we do it in a way where people are engaging one another, interacting with each other, respecting each other's cultures and whatever, we used to have a wonderful cultural fest up in Reservoir Park. Remember that? It was very, very nice. I mean, that was one of the highlights of the summer. And it was very nice. We didn't have shootings. People weren't running over people with their cars. I mean, it was very crowded all day. Just basic things, nothing extravagant and crazy, but we enjoyed that.
Is that something you'd like to bring back? Like, if you were mayor, would you start that festival again? Or
I sure
talk about
would.
the festivals. That's kind of, how you think they're currently being managed, or where you think it could be better. It sounds like you know.
Well, some of them have been laid to rest, so we don't see them anymore, you know, but I would like to resurrect the festivals. And because that's what brings people together. Because we had food, we had all kinds of food, anything you can imagine we had. People stopping and talking and sharing and just wholesome fun. You know, children seeing all kinds of people, so they realized that it was God's intent for all of us to live here together. I mean, these are things that I really, really want to see, and I mean deep in my heart, I want to see it. I want to see kids in playgrounds, and they don't have to worry about being shot because you got drug users selling drugs on playgrounds.
Small other cities, third-class cities. I'm thinking of Allentown, for instance, used a neighborhood improvement zone to bring the PPL Center to downtown. They have a hockey stadium and a concert venue there now. There's only so much a city leader can do to work on that. A lot of that boils down to effective representation in Harrisburg and really sound advocacy there. Do you think you have that with Senator Temple's gone and Senator DeSanto in and Representative Kim in? Do you think you have that kind of effective representation where if you wanted to pursue that course of action, you could?
I think that both of them would be amenable to supporting these types of initiatives in our city. Remember, they actually know it's a capital city. We just don't and aren't always treated that way. But I think that they would be two stakeholders on board to work to make sure that we do this. You know, we have Stilton. You know, we could throw a stone to Stilton. That's the other thing we don't look at, is outside of our geographic area. But to look at Hershey and look at Stilton and Susquehanna Township and, you know, the other communities and invite them in. And we ask to be invited to their, communities and do things collaboratively. Now, all of you know I love the Civil War Museum. And I make no apology for it. I love it. I think it's beautiful. It exists in an area of the park where we used to just have a ball up there, you know. We got old enough to drive and take our cars up and listen to music, and you could see, it seemed like you could see the world up there. You know, I'd like to see a nice restaurant, a nice revolving restaurant up there. not make it so heavy that everyday people can't go up and eat. It's not going to just be for the elite, but just have something nice where if it's a anniversary and you want to take your loved ones someplace special, that would be a beautiful place moving around. You know, they have one in Pittsburgh, revolving restaurant, and I love it to go up there. I don't like going up, but once I'm up there, I'm okay. But it's a wonderful place to be. Isn't it? It's beautiful. Have you been there?
Yeah, U.S. Steel building.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Well, we can do the same thing. We just have to think outside the box and believe that our community has the same ability to do what other communities do. We just have to say, no more fighting, okay? We're going to stick together and we're going to get this done, period. Plus, we're adults and we should be better examples for our children.
I think we, and with that, put a cap on this. So thank you very much for coming
You're
in.
very welcome.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
You're welcome. I love you. Thank you.